Hello and welcome to our potting shed programme. The emphasis of this programme is going to be cottage gardens, and that's why I'm going to be speaking a little later on to Mary Mottram. She grows some of the old and the new cottage garden plants. But I thought I'd do, well, that should help in our garden. You know, out in my garden, I've got Mary Mottram, so let's go and see her. Hello, Mary. What a lovely arrangement you put on my bench and picked a nice part in my warm garden. Well, it's reasonably warm. And I mean, I'm in South Devon and you're in North Devon. And I think the climate's a little different, isn't it?
Yes, it's very cold up there, very windy, very exposed. And, well, we just envy everybody in the south. And so, you know, we come down into the valley and see everything else in flower when we're still battling with the winter, well, just the winter weather.
Because you're 950 feet up on the side of Exmoor.
That's right, on the way to Simmons Bath.
Now, what made you get involved in cottage garden plants?
Well, I've always been interested in plants from childhood, and strangely enough, I was an evacuee, and my ambition was to marry a Devon farmer, but I didn't. But I married a Devon man and had a garden instead. And then when I was left with the children, I found that gardening was what everybody wanted, a gardener, and I gradually went round doing odd jobs, and then one of the family said, why don't you go and get some training at college? So I did that and ended up doing this.
Well, how enterprising, because you've really picked a subject that is in vogue, isn't it? People
which is now.
Yes, I mean,
when I started.
I mean, cottage garden plants now, people have done their period gardens. Even the Cottage Garden Society was formed in 1982, wasn't it?
That's right, yes, just to cater for the old, well, really for small gardens, not the big big ones of the other societies.
Because I think the real cottage gardens were little gardens, weren't
yes.
they? With a whole mixture of...
A whole mixture of fruit, vegetables and flowers. Things like herbs you see for the house, and then sweet-scented flowers to mask the other smells of the countryside. and then it developed from that.
Well, I think it's a marvellous little society, and I think only £2 a year and produces a number of little newsletters.
Yes.
Seems a nice, friendly little society.
Very
covering
friendly.
a subject that is
yes, we exchange,
so popular.
Well, we exchange seeds and not just of flowers, but of vegetables as well, I think.
Well, I know in your garden you grow quite a lot of the old and new cottage gardens and then have a little nursery, but I can see one or two things in the vase there that are new to me. What about that wallflower right at the very front?
This one here?
Yes.
Well, I call it butterscotch. It's a perennial, one of the Geraniaceae. I just don't know I don't know, you know, if it ever had a proper name, but that's what I call it. And it makes a great big dome.
And as for that marigold now, it's obviously closed up at the moment, but there looks something peculiar from here about it.
Yes, it's the hen and chicken marigold.
Well, I never.
When the marigold comes up and fades, these little babies come up from the side, extend, and then they flower. So you'll have almost a wreath of flowers around the old deadhead.
Now, that will grow readily from seed, is it?
From seed? Oh, it's an annual, or actually I've had one in this year for the first time. It's actually lasted through the winter. But no, it's not. Or you could just take the seed head, keep it, and grow it like any other annual.
Fascinating. Now, the white flower there, I can smell the scent of that. It must be
This
our
one.
stock, which is so common in cottage
Yes,
gardens.
that's the perennial stock. When I say perennial, it goes on for several years. Mine has a root nearly a yard long. It starts here and comes up here at the moment. So I'm hoping to get the seed from it this year and start again. Otherwise, it'll be, you know, like an elongated cabbage.
Now, buttercups, that yellow there, that's the one
This
right
buttercup up there?
Yes.
Well, that, strangely enough, is a double buttercup. Brought in from the wild many years ago. It's not like the creeping one that we all try to get rid of. It has a rhizome and stays in a nice, tidy clump.
Because this is what used to be fascinating. Many of the cottage garden plants were probably things that the countrymen saw in the wild and thought, oh, this is different, and brought it home.
Brought it home, yes, like the double ladies' smock, which is now sort of fading.
And now, what's the pink? Surely that the pink, lavender pink, up above our.
Oh, up above the
that one there.
That's the Dame's Violet, or Sweet Rocket.
Yes.
That's scented too. Makes it, especially in the evening. It's scented in the evening when you walk down the garden. That's a perennial. Has a large leaf all through the winter. Makes a big rosette.
And then geums.
The geums, now...
They're a lovely plant. This one here.
Now that's Lionel Cox. That's an old one, a yellow. You don't often see yellow.
You don't. It's beautiful, isn't it? And then the other one with its flowers looking very much like the wild.
Well, yes, it's related. It's a Leonard's variety. And my daughter-in-law last week looked at it and she said, it's just like the elfin caps in the fairy tales.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then right on the outside, that orange one, that's the orange geum.
Yes, that's another one of the... There's Lady Stratheden, isn't there, and Mrs. Bradshaw. And there's several new ones. Dolly North is an orange that comes on quite well. And there's Bariciae. Oh, it's a lovely family.
It is. And now what
garden.
about this little...
This, most people, old people anyway, will know the Calceolaria integrifolia, and it's yellow.
Yeah.
Usually hardy outside, occasionally not so. And the old ladies used to always take a cutting, make sure they had it. But this one I discovered last year, Camden orange. Such a change from the bright yellow.
It's very nice.
So I'm bringing some of that on for actually I've got a charity store next week, so I hope to have that there.
Now, I can't resist asking you about these violas you've got in your hand.
Well, this is really showing you the history.
Is it?
That is a wild heartsease. Just seeds itself. You'll find them almost various shades. If you notice the two top petals and the little one at the bottom is sort of different colour. And it's one of the parents of all our pansies and violas.
It's beautiful, that
but
one,
it seeds itself all. It can become a bit of a weed, but I tolerate it. I'd rather have that than some of the other weeds we have.
And then what's this little bouquet here?
Now that's a mixture of violas and violettas. There's dear old. Can you see Jackanapes?
That's it. That one there. That's the one that was named by Gertrude Jekyll.
After her pet monkey.
Was it? I didn't.
Yes. Apparently she had it on her shoulder when she was going around the garden, picked it out and named it after her monkey. So the story goes. I wasn't there.
And then these lovely...
That's Buxton's blue with a dark centre.
Nice,
you can see it's got pansy parentage.
Yeah.
That's Ardros gem. There again, very much, if you notice that the shape and the way the two colours are formed.
Yeah. Now, what's that lovely white one?
Well, that's really a rogue.
Oh.
It's supposed to be moonlight, but I don't think it is.
Oh, I see.
And then Lorna, Martin.
What a lovely mixture. I mean, this, I can understand why they're so popular. I saw big stands, big banks of them at Chelsea.
Oh, yes.
And crowds round them, and the delicious scent.
The scent, yes. They're nearly all scented.
And the other ones in your hand is me getting rather eager.
That is dear old Maggie Mott.
The famous Maggie Mott.
The famous Maggie Mott.
Now, that'll be Maggie Mott in the pot there.
Yes. Well, they used that for bedding in the parks years ago, and it's coming back. It's coming back. You see it mentioned several times. And
the scent is...
They are scented, yes.
Fabulous.
Especially in the evening.
Yes.
That's the old Viola cornuta, which you have a lot of in your garden.
Yes. Now, I've seen this in the wild, growing surprisingly in the hedgerows, 2, 3, 4 feet high as it clambers through things.
Yes. But didn't it come from the Pyrenees?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, well, I've seen it as you go down from the mountains and you're walking down to the village to get a cool drink or something in one of the little village shops, and there it is growing in the hedgerows. Sometimes with lilies coming out and aquiledias.
Yes, but anyway, that it's a parent of one of the other parents of some of our garden violas, and that's a dear little thing, blue haze, which is in the garden at Buckland Manocorum, the garden house.
Isn't that super? But now, with this lovely selection, can you sort of put me through, what's the one right at the far end, that purpley one?
That's Hunterscombe Purple. Yeah. That's quite a busy old one. Yeah. Then you have...
Then Maggie Mott's the next one there.
There, yes.
And then look at this crystal clear blue.
That's Pickering blue. Now, in the books, it's called anodyne blue, so I don't know what an anodyne is, but that's that.
Well, it must be the Pickering blue colour.
Yes.
And then this one here with all its small flower.
This is Martin.
Now, how would you propagate these? I mean, Martin forms a big clump,
yes,
and you could divide it.
You can either tear it apart, split it up. The best way I find is to put a load of peat on the top. Let it shake it down and let it lie there for a few weeks, and then when you split it, some of them, the side bits will have rooted.
Make Irishman's cutting.
That's right. Or else you can wait till the autumn and take cuttings. The thing with the violas and things, that you cannot just take ordinary cuttings because they have a hollow stem, and they won't root. You have to wait till you get the new young shoot.
So this is why some people will in July cut the plants
Cut all
right
the flower,
down,
yes, with a
and
pair
then
of
take,
shears, and then take cuttings.
Oh, and they're usually in full bloom
That's
then,
right.
aren't they?
Sorry, that's why you haven't got some of the others,
So
because
you-
I've already done that.
So you need really to have one plant for propagation and one to enjoy the blooms.
That's right, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Now what about the nice yellow
Well,
one there?
that came to me labelled David Weldon from a very kind friend.
Slightly bigger flowers
Bigger
than that
flowers.
Prince John that's grown
Prince
a lot
John,
from,
yes,
from seed.
that's one you use. Prince John and Prince Hen you can buy usually in the market in little pots for bedding out, yes.
And then the little one there.
That's Moonlight, isn't it?
Yes, that's it. There's
Yes.
so many different names.
There's so many names, and some of them are so almost alike, but
But I mean,
each
they're
one
not
has
like
its own
that
charm.
one because it's an
That's
enchanting colour, the next
yes.
one, isn't it?
well, that is Chantry Land. That again, you can go from seed. It's what they call not a good doer, unfortunately. It doesn't make this great big clump, which is rather sad, but you can't really do without it with that colour.
But you can save your own seed because that must be a mixture of
That's
seedling.
a mixture of seed. I took seed from Pickering Blue. You can see some of, how much
Yeah.
alike some of them are, and some of the others. And my usual way, I got muddled up and I didn't label them properly, so they all got in together in the same seed tray.
Now what about this one here?
Now that is Little David. That's one of the favourites. See how upright it grows?
It is.
And it's
strong,
scented and
isn't
it's
it?
very strong.
So that's a good plant for
That's-
people to start with. They can get it the same as that
But
one
Bowles
there.
Black, well, Bowles Black comes from seed. You can do it from cuttings, but you get a lot of variation. You get it from different people, and each black is slightly different. I've got a whole tray which is all not black anymore.
Makes a lovely ground cover plant,
it's
but
a
you
lovely
can always
cover.
hoe it off if you get too many.
That's
It's not-
right, and it always seeds itself in the wrong place.
But it's a nice weed to have in the wrong
Yes.
place. And obviously that's Phyllogracis lutea.
Yes, and that's another. That was what part of an enormous clump that I grew a couple of years ago. You wouldn't believe it. It was a sort of yard across, and that's just a bit out of it, just splitting it up like that.
Well, I know when I look here and pick this lovely flower, this Astrantia flower that I've got here in my hand. I mean, this is just one of many of the plants you grow. I mean, there's
the modern variation with a variegated one,
foliage
yes,
one.
that people always ask
But the things
for.
you bought here are ones that are easy to transplant because many of the plants will be growing happily in the garden and
That's
don't
right,
move
I
easily.
can't dig them all up to bring, no.
So you'll probably approve then of my plant of the week. So thanks ever so much.
Yes,
and,
that's fine.
I look forward to having a look at your plants growing in the wild.
Right.
Now, my plant of the week, that isn't easy to transplant. It's the Oriental poppy.